might get a message about that. And this is our breakout session on Holy Cross Internationality and Mission. And Brother Paul is our presenter today. But like I said, we can just give it another minute or so before you get started, Brother Paul.
And Jesse, you have the PowerPoint, correct?
I do. Would you like me to share it or would you like to?
I'm using my laptop right now. It's not on my laptop and I didn't have time to get it. So if you can do it, but I'll tell you when, okay?
Definitely, yes.
You want to wait a little bit longer? Or?
I was just about to ask you, it's okay if we want to start and people join in a minute or two?
Sure, that would be fine.
All right. Well, whenever you're ready then, Brother Paul.
I'm all set.
Here we go. Can everyone see the screen okay?
Yes, I could. All right. Shall I just begin, Jesse? Well, hello, everybody. I send you greetings from our Holy Cross General Aid here in Rome. I know it's afternoon probably for you, but right now we had a beautiful sunset and it's a little bit after 8 o'clock in the evening. So I do want to express my thanks to Marco Clark, who, by the way, is my former student at Bishop McNamara High School. I taught him his honors American literature course when he was a junior, and he was also on my yearbook staff. So I thank Marco for inviting me to be here. And just to tell you a little bit about myself, as you know, I am the first assistant vicar general for the Congregation of Holy Cross. I have lived here now in Rome for 5 years, and but prior to this, I also was a Holy Cross educator. And I had taught for 7 years at Bishop McNamara High School in Forestville, Maryland. And I was also the assistant headmaster of our international school here in Rome, which unfortunately we no longer have. But I was a teacher, administrator, as well as campus minister. And even though I got into provincial administration at a young age, and as well as vocation work, I still consider myself a Holy Cross educator. So I feel like I am among friends. So I am pleased to present to you this workshop, which is on Holy Cross Internationality and Mission. And I began with this first slide, just so you know, these stained glass windows that you are looking at right now are the windows from our mother church in Le Mans, France. Unfortunately, they are not the original windows, but if you ever did visit Le Mans and you saw Notre Dame de Sainte Croix, this was the church that was built by Father Moreau, and he wanted it to be the center of the congregation. And we are delighted that we still have that and are preserving our heritage in Le Mans. But the windows, unfortunately, during an Allied bombing during World War II, the original windows were destroyed, and these windows were installed in 1948. But the reason why I put them in there is because I think it gives you a good impression that very early on in Father Moreau's vision for the Congregation of Holy Cross, He wanted it to be an international congregation. And you can see there on the far left our settlement in Canada with St. Joseph's Oratory, our legacy with Saint Andre Bessette. And then the next window is of our Holy Cross sisters who had settled there who were part of our early missions in Bengal. Of course, Father Jujarie and Father Moreau. In the middle is Bishop Bouvier, who was Bishop of Le Mans. The next window you all recognize is the Golden Dome at the University of Notre Dame. And of course, our missionaries there in South America on the right. So as I said, even though Holy Cross was founded and named after a particular neighborhood in Le Mans, France, Father Moreau always wanted it to be a missionary community. And the next slide, please. He desired Holy Cross from the beginning to go beyond the borders of France. And just to give you an idea of what he did during his lifetime, but he sent missionaries to Algiers in 1840, in 1841, which was providential, and I'll talk about later on, which is our largest concentration today, but he sent them to the newly settled United States, followed by Canada, Italy in 1850, Bengal, which is significant for us, in 1852, as well as to Poland in 1856. Now, he sent these missionaries oftentimes at great sacrifice to his early fledgling congregation. For instance, with Bengal, when he met with the Holy Father, when he met with Pius IX about approving the constitutions of the Congregation of Holy Cross, in order to assure the Pope that he wanted his congregation to be forward-thinking and missionary, he said, "Tell me, where in the world do you need missionaries today, and I will send Holy Cross religious." And the Pope responded, "We need people in Bengal." So Father Moreau sent people to Bengal, priests, brothers, and sisters. Some of them had died, some had gotten very sick as a result of that, but we went there in 1852 and we have flourished as a result. But since the congregation was in its early stages, there really was little preparation that was done for overseas mission as we do today. You have to remember back then, the mindset was that you were being sent. You were being sent in obedience, and you were being sent to save souls. So religious were given very little training about the country as well as the culture that they were entering into. And they also had very little to know about what to expect when they got there. Naturally, we don't have the resources. I mean, they didn't have the resources that we have today to learn about these countries. Moreau sent people to Bengal, but he never visited Bengal himself. So it truly was an act of faith on their part. The religious went, and they did what they needed to do. And they were told that their own faith in God and zeal for the mission and their fidelity to the constitutions and to the rule would fortify them in their mission. Now, the other thing that we have to remember is that as a result, many of our early ancestors in the community had very little religious formation. The needs were too great. And therefore, maybe they had some religious formation, but oftentimes they were sent out as novices or as temporarily professed. They were also, many of them, only 16 or 17 years old. But it was the needs that took that took precedence over the preparation. If I can just move to the next slide. When we look back at our early religious and in their mission, I'm sure many of you have seen the movie The Mission. And it was an earlier concept with foreign missions, that you went to the foreign missions to save souls, to convert the pagans. It was a very traditional mindset of what our ministry overseas was to be. In the 19th century, though, when Holy Cross was founded, we began to see a shift in that mindset. It was no longer, people were no longer just sent to convert pagans, all right, or to save souls. But wherever we went, or wherever missionaries went, they began to build churches. They began to build a Catholic infrastructure of schools, of hospitals, and of other social service. For instance, I still remain edified by the stories of the Sisters of the Holy Cross, our Indiana branch. At one point, half of their membership in the United States were nursing the soldiers during the Civil War. Now, oftentimes, what we did too was that we brought our own culture to where we were. And sometimes we imposed a European understanding of what church was upon the people. So therefore, if you visit some churches in these foreign lands that were settled by European missionaries, some of the churches look like a church that you would see in Europe, all right? Even some of the community practices today that we still have in Bangladesh and India are some of those practices from our earlier French and as well as French-Canadian missionaries. And then after Vatican II, there was another change in mindset of what mission was, another shift in this missiology. And the focus became more on justice, on dialogue, reconciliation, and evangelization and witness to the faith. Now, in the next slide, I had shown you previously where we were. Today, the men, the priests and brothers of Holy Cross, are in 18 countries worldwide. If you were listening to Marco Clark earlier, he said the Holy Cross family is in 21 countries. That is true. The Canadian Holy Cross sisters are in Mali, Burkina Faso, as well as in Vietnam. But the men's congregation, we are located in 18 countries currently. In the Americas, including US and Canada, we are in Haiti, Mexico, Chile, Peru, and Brazil. In Asia, Bangladesh, India, and the Philippines. In Europe, of course, we still have a presence in France. Our only foundation is here in Rome at the Generalate. And we also have a presence, the University of Notre Dame has a presence in Ireland. And we have a Holy Cross priest in Ireland with Holy Cross Family Ministries. In Africa, we are in Ghana, Uganda, Kenya, and Tanzania. And just recently, only 2 years ago, our province of South India are exploring a permanent mission in Australia. And we have one Holy Cross priest there now who is pastor of a parish, and their chapter will be, their chapter this year will be looking about whether or not they should send more priests to Australia. Now, what is exciting for us is that we have other jurisdictions in India as well as in Bangladesh who are beginning to explore mission territories in Myanmar, possibly Sri Lanka, or Vietnam. So that is where we are located today. Now, oftentimes, I'm sure with your contact with Holy Cross, you are thinking of Holy Cross as only as educators. But Holy Cross, in the tradition of Father Moro as well, but we are also located in parishes. In the next slide. We staff parishes in all of the countries in which we serve. And those parishes run the gamut. You could have your typical suburban parish that we would find in the Western world, but also in Uganda or India, you may have a parish that will have 30 outstations, and possibly they may see their priest only about 2 or 3 times a year because he has to walk for 3 days in order to get there. I have to say, having visited some of these parishes in remote places, it is absolutely inspiring to see the zeal within our men and their love for their people, as well as the vibrancy of the faith of the people. And like we depend upon the laity in our schools, they depend upon lay catechists to continue to bring the faith during those months of absence, of bringing the faith to the small communities in which they serve. Now, many of these parishes also have small or some larger primary schools that are affiliated with them. But here you can see the parish in Kenya on the upper left, Haiti right next to it, Peru below, India, France in the lower corner, and right there in Austin, Texas is Father John Doherty at St. Ignatius the Martyr. We also do social service, as you will find in the next slide. Andre House in the upper left-hand corner was founded by the former Indiana province, now the US province. It's an outreach to the homeless in Phoenix, Arizona. They provide not only meals per day, but also provide job counseling, as well as shower services and medical help as well. Brother Ronald Drozdel, the late Brother Ronald Drozdel, was there in Bangladesh. And with very little money, but with a lot of zeal and a wonderful vision, he helped found APON, which is a rehabilitation center for drug-addicted children, street children, and for young adults. All of our schools in Brazil have some form of outreach program to the poor and the vulnerable, as you see in the upper right-hand corner. In the northeast section of India, on the bottom left, is ASHA. ASHA is the Association of Social Human Advancement, and that is located in Agartala, India. And it is a social service agency directed at the empowerment of women. They offer literacy programs, before and after school programs for children, family assistance, family counseling. And then finally, you see me there. That's in Nairobi, Kenya. It is our only hospital within the men's congregation. It's located in Dandora, which is in a slum section of Nairobi, founded for women's care. Has grown significantly, but it is the St. Brother Andre Medical Center. And you have all, I'm sure, have heard of Father Patrick Peyton, who was called the Rosary Priest. In the next slide, you'll see Holy Cross Family Ministries, which was founded by Father Peyton. He was the one who coined the phrase, "The family that prays together stays together." Now, he promoted the rosary as a means of family prayer. This now is an international ministry for Holy Cross that is located in 15 different countries. Father Peyton is a candidate for canonization. He was declared venerable. There is a miracle now being studied at the Vatican, which we anticipate will bring him to his beatification. But he and Bishop Fulton Sheen were really the first to use media as a form of evangelization. Father Peyton had hosted rosary rallies around the world. And as you see, that ministry continues today in 15 different countries. We also have family theater, which is a film production. Father Peyton was very much connected with many of the Hollywood stars during his time, as you can see below there, Jack Benny and Lucille Ball. But he had many good friends in the movie industry who supported him in his ministry. In fact, one of the last TV appearances of the late Grace Kelly was saying the rosary for Father Peyton in one of his films. So we do have a film studio located in Hollywood, California. In fact, there was a documentary that was just done on Father Peyton called Pray, and that just received a Christopher Award. I just got that press release yesterday, so we're very proud of that. Now, looking at Holy Cross today, I want to show you some congregational demographics that are in the next slide. This chart shows you the number of our finally professed religious by region. I do not have, we should be getting the new statistics for 2020 soon, so I am only sharing with you the 2018 statistics. Just by the regions of Africa, Asia, Canada, France, Haiti, Latin America, and the United States. And next to it, I have put the projections that we have as we look to the year 2033. So currently, we are about 1,000, give or take 1,113 religious. These are finally professed priests and brothers, okay? If you were to throw in the novices, as well as temporarily professed seminarians and brothers that we have within the congregation, depending upon the year, it could be anywhere between 275 or over 300 more. But the demographics, as you can see here, really reflect the demographics of our church, where our church is growing at a rapid pace in the developing world. And you see that by our numbers in Africa as well as in Asia. And in listening to the previous panel discussion of the brothers, they were just talking about our diminishing numbers in the United States. But we are blessed in the United States in that when we look at the men that we have in formation currently in the United States, we have about approximately 50, excuse me, 50 seminarians and brothers who are in various stages of their formation. Altogether right now, I believe that we just had 2 brothers make their final vows. We had a brother in the United States make his first vows, who was a former lay teacher at Archbishop Hoban, Brother Ben Rossi. And we also have about maybe 8 brothers in temporary vows. So we're encouraged by that. But you also need to remember, if you're looking at the chart, you may wonder, well, like why, given if we have been in Asia for so long and the church is growing, why do we have only that many vocations? You need to remember that it was only about 40 or 50 years ago after Vatican II that we started to accept vocations in our mission territories. We began then to realize that our Holy Cross charism, mission, and traditions in the various countries where we were cannot just be dependent upon Western missionaries. And the work that we were doing can sometimes be carried on much more effectively by indigenous religious. Now, this was a major mindset for us. All right, we were in Bangladesh for over 100 years before we even began to think of accepting vocations. The reason why that was because part of our mission was to help build the local church where we went. And in some respects, Holy Cross was considered as something different, that we were this European congregation. We were different, removed from the local indigenous population. So for instance, if a young man or a young woman had a vocation, we would encourage them to join a local congregation, all right? And in some cases, we even founded congregations for that purpose. And I'd like to introduce you to two. In the next slide, you're introduced to the Associates of Mary, Queen of the Apostles. This was founded by Bishop Timothy Crowley and Sister Rose Bernard, Sister of the Holy Cross, in 1933. Their mission is to educate young women in Bangladesh, and currently they have over 600 sisters, both in Bangladesh as well as in Italy. We saw another example of this in the next slide with the Little Handmaids of the Church. This was founded by Bishop LaRose and Sister Alphonse Liguri in 1956. Another Bengali community, their ministry, their mission is healthcare for women and children, and they also go out to remote villages for catechetical work. Currently, there are about 40 to 50 sisters in that community. So there was a shift in mindset that in order to strengthen the church, our role was to help build that local worshiping community. That changed though in the approximately about 50s or even after Vatican II, saying that we need to place an anchor where we are, that our works cannot be dependent upon Western missionaries only. Because we began to accept vocations from other countries, Holy Cross has changed as a result. And you can see that visually in the next slide. Our general chapter takes place every 6 years. We had an extraordinary general chapter in 2016. But if you were to look at the membership of the 1980 general chapter, and that's at the general chapter is where we make our legislation for 6 years, and we elect a new Father General and a new General Council. In 1980, the delegates for the general chapter were only from France, the United States, and Canada. We had an extraordinary general chapter in 2019. We had additional delegates now from Haiti, Chile, Brazil, Uganda, Kenya, Ghana, Tanzania, Bangladesh, and India. Holy Cross, the face and complexion of Holy Cross is changing, and that is a great blessing. We used to talk about the world church, but the church has, and because the church stretched worldwide, but the church in the various cultures of where it was never really intersected because people did not travel, all right? And there was no cross-pollination of cultures. But now, with a very culturally diverse membership, with rapid communication, with immigration, and as well as frequent travel, we have moved from becoming a world church to a global church. And we are moving from becoming an international congregation to a more global congregation. This forces us to think differently about the congregation. Now, our new global reality impacts not only how we think, but it calls us to be more creative in meeting the needs of our mission. And I'd like you, and I just want to give you some concrete examples of where we see this cross-intercultural community living as well as ministries that we have in the congregation today. In the next slide, you are all familiar with St. Joseph's Oratory in Montreal, which was founded by our beloved St. Andre Bessette. Now, the oratory was always under the auspices of the French Canadian province. Just to give you an idea of those who minister at the oratory today. Just this year, we've had the recent installation of a new rector who is an American, Father Mike Delaney. This Holy Cross staff who are at the oratory include 3 Indians, 1 Bengali, 2 Americans, and 4 Haitian Holy Cross priests. Today, masses at the oratory are said in French, English, Spanish, and Creole. Now, that is a major shift for the men in Montreal. But if you have ever gone to Montreal, and especially where the oratory is, it is a very multinational, multi-ethnic, intercultural community. And there is a large immigrant population in Montreal. And many of those immigrants worship at the oratory. So we must meet those needs. As a result of this, in the next slide, we have a house of formation in Montreal. The 2 directors of the formation are Canadian, but currently we have 2 temporarily professed brothers and 2 seminarians from Bangladesh. The 2 brothers are on their retreat right now, preparing for their final vows. Excuse me. We have 2 seminarians, 1 seminarian from Bangladesh, 1 seminarian from Haiti, and we have 1 Canadian postulant who is from Manitoba. 3 seminarians are expected to join that community soon, and they will be coming from India. These men are doing their seminary as well as religious formation in Montreal, and they are making a commitment to 10 years of ministry in French Canada. Again, a creative way. What we're seeing is the reverse, where the Western population used to send missionaries to the East or to Africa. We are now receiving them in North America. The same thing in the next slide in English Canada, in the region of English Canada. We have 6 parishes in Ontario. All of them are staffed by Indian Holy Cross religious from the 3 representative of the 3 provinces in India. We have 1 Holy Cross priest who helps out, who native Canadian, who helps out in the parish. And you see his photo there with the sisters. But the superior of the region of English Canada is from the Vicariate of Tamil Nadu, Father Vijay Amithraj. At our shrine, you heard me talk about the windows in the next slide. You heard me talk about the windows at our shrine and mother church in Le Mans, France. Father Paul-Élie Cadet is pastor and rector of the shrine and as well as of the parish there. He is from Haiti, and Brother Joseph Gonzalez is the associate pastor and the assistant rector, and he is from Bangladesh. The Vicariate of India is now in dialogue with Bangladesh about sending more people from Bangladesh to help us in our schools as well as in our parishes. As we look to South America in the next slide, we have an international house of formation where we have seminarians and scholastic brothers from Chile, Peru, Brazil, and Haiti who live together in Santiago and are doing theology and studies there as well. This is sponsored. Now, the District of Chile, Peru is under the auspices of the US province. The District of Brazil is under the Moreau province, and Haiti is a standalone province. But it is a collaborative house of formation of international living, and as well as of ministry. Now, I'd like to look at, in the next slide here, just what is it like to be a product of a global community or to live in an international community. I can even speak of my own experience here at the Holy Cross General Aid. Here at the General Aid, we have 8 residents. There are 3 of us who are from the United States. 1 is from Canada. 1 is from India. Another from Kenya, and another from Bangladesh. And we are expecting a student priest from Mexico in August. It's an international community and living together internationally. Now, this can become a challenge on many fronts because it is a shift in mindset from a Western mindset, which has always been our dominant cohort within the congregation, to a more global mindset, that we are members of various cultures and countries, and we cannot work in isolation. But really, with increased communication and travel, how can we be best? And these are the questions that we ask ourselves. How can we integrate better, not only in our works, but also in the way we pray, and in the way we think, and in the way we live? How can we integrate the various cultures and traditions and customs within the congregation? As I say, there is not necessarily a Holy Cross culture. We have a common rule and a common way of life. But Holy Cross is like the gospel. All right, the gospel is lived where it is planted. I have been extremely fortunate to visit all of our jurisdictions except for Peru. And I must say it is very exciting to see Holy Cross in these various cultures that are carrying on our same values in our schools, our same traditions, but with a different, through a different lens, through a different, it's, to go to a liturgy in Uganda is far different from attending a liturgy in South Bend, Indiana. All right, it's much more lively, children running all around. The homily is much longer. The singing will absolutely inspire you. So how do we integrate all of that? And how do we maintain an identity given the various cultures and countries where we are? The other challenge is, while the growth is in the developing world, the reality is that our resources continue to be in the developed world, which challenges us regarding looking at just the living from the common purse and how are we going to support these missions in the future. But as I said before, each jurisdiction can no longer think or operate in isolation. We are members of a much larger congregation, and our internationality and globalism must be something that we embrace and not just tolerate, but we must embrace it as a gift. It is part of Father Moreau's legacy. Now, as you would know, some of our schools are also undergoing a similar shift in their populations. And if we were to speak about interculturality in schools, that would be another whole webinar, another whole workshop. But it's very important to realize that we cannot overlook or underestimate the power of culture, because we do not, when we walk in the front door, we don't leave our own home culture at the doorstep. We take it in with us. Previously, I lived in Italy for 5 years when I was at the school. This year, I will complete 10 years of living in Italy. I love the Italians. I love the Italian culture, Italian food. I love Italy, and I love living here. but I will never be Italian. Was born and raised in the United States, and I still think like an American. I don't understand their bureaucracy sometimes, or I don't understand why they just won't queue up at the bus stop. Why do people have to crowd? Or why do people have to, why are people cutting in line? I mean, Americans are very punctual, and, for the Italians, la dolce vita, the sweet life, it's a domani, there's tomorrow. And it's a very different way of life. So as much as I love Italy and the Italians, I know I will never be Italian. So, and it's the same thing in the schools, especially for those of you who are in schools where you are receiving children from immigrant populations. That's very important to realize, and how to acclimate them, not only to where they are living, but each school has its own culture as well. Since we're talking about schools, let me just talk a little bit about our Holy Cross schools worldwide. And the next slide. Here is a chart that shows you, Marco had mentioned about the number of schools. We have 128 total schools. These are only for the men's congregation, by the way. I don't have the numbers for the sisters. Okay, but here in the United States, we have 22. Bangladesh has 31. India has 41 primary and secondary schools. All right. So one of the things that we, when the original missionaries did come to countries, one of the first things that we did is what we do best, which is educate. So sometimes the first things that we did was we built a school. And many times we were invited by the local bishop to come to a country to open a school. And as you know, schools are an important means of evangelization. In a school, by having students at 8 hours a day, maybe 5 days a week, you can instill gospel values and provide a sense of faith community where they can be supported in whatever faith they are. There's also a greater sense of freedom within private schools as opposed to state or public schools. And I think that is a great tribute to Catholic education. But we have this wonderful pedagogy and legacy of Holy Cross education that is consistent with the vision of Father Morrow. And what we have done when we had, I was just listening to the brothers' panel, and Brother George had said that many of our schools are more Holy Cross now than it was when we went to a Holy Cross school. And I can say that to you personally. I went to a Holy Cross school in West Haven, Connecticut. I never knew who Father Morrow was. Nobody talked about him. All right. We had 25 brothers in the school. So, and we knew they were Holy Cross brothers, but we never knew anything about this Holy Cross education. But when there became fewer of us, we were forced to look at this whole question: how are we going to institutionalize this legacy of education for future generations? And what is it that we need to do to preserve this pedagogy of Father Morrow? One of my responsibilities for the congregation is that I serve as vice postulator for our causes for canonization. And as you know, Father Morrow is beatified, and we are waiting for another miracle that would bring him to his canonization. I keep saying that one of Father Morrow's greatest miracles that I think we can attribute to his intercession is the success of our Holy Cross schools around the world. And I can go on and on about this, but I just want to share a few success stories with you, a few illustrations. As you can see in the next slide, I don't need to say anymore. Okay. Everybody, the University of Notre Dame is, of course, is this well-renowned university that is known internationally. Even the Holy Father is a football fan, as you can see in that picture. And it is from that has given a sense of pride to all of our schools around the world. But the University of Notre Dame, as that was our first foundation in the New World, and it was from there that Holy Cross Religious, under the direction of then Father Soren, who was the superior and eventually provincial and superior general, sent Holy Cross Religious around the United States, first to New Orleans, and then to Austin, and then to other parts of the country, to open schools in the tradition of the Brothers of St. Joseph. We have the University of Notre Dame, and then in the next slide, we also have St. George's College in Santiago, Chile. Now, this is very interesting because Holy Cross St. George's College was founded in 1936. And Holy Cross took over the school in the 40s when Holy Cross first went to Chile. Now, you all know about the Pinochet regime, the oppressive regime and dictatorship of Pinochet. There was a coup in 1972, and then the military took over the school and Holy Cross was dismissed. And many of our men spoke out against the regime. Some were arrested, some were tortured, but Holy Cross finally returned in 1986. Currently, it is considered one of the best schools in the country. 1/3 of the CEOs of the top 200 companies in Chile are graduates of the school. It is a remarkable, remarkable success story. We see something similar in the next slide with Holy Cross Lakeview Secondary School in Jinja, Uganda. This school was part of the vision as well as the hard work of Father Robert Hesse and Brother Paul Kasande. Father Hesse was an American, Brother Paul was an African brother. They founded Holy Cross Lakeview School in 1993, and it began in a one-room schoolhouse. Today, it is a boarding school. They have boarders as well as day students. They boast over 800 students, and it is rated one of the top 50 schools in all of Uganda. And it was founded in 1993. Remarkable. In Bangladesh, in the next slide, St. Placid School and College, which is located in Chittagong, Bangladesh. Brother Benedict began teaching at St. Placid School in 1853. And it was then 10 years later that it became a Holy Cross school and continues today 160 years later as a Holy Cross school. Many current and former government officials were educated by Holy Cross. They were also educated by our Holy Cross sisters in Bangladesh. Without a doubt, Holy Cross offers the best education in our entire country. Notre Dame University of Bangladesh was founded by Holy Cross, and it is the first Catholic university in the country. As you know, Bangladesh is primarily a Muslim country. It is primarily a Muslim country. The Catholic population is only 0.2% of the country. All right. Nevertheless, the Catholics are looked upon with great respect for the education they provide. And with the rise of some fundamental Islamic ideas, Bangladesh has always had a very tolerant view of religions, of Christianity, as well as Hinduism and Buddhism. And even though the majority population is Muslim. I would say about 90% of our students in our schools are Muslim. But our Holy Cross values of tolerance and openness are being instilled in the future leaders of that country. Just as a little side note, a little sidebar, it's a kind of an interesting trivia, but Brother Thomas Moore and Brother Donald Becker in the 1940s introduced basketball to Bangladesh. They brought it to our Holy Cross schools. It caught on. It is now a national sport. In fact, the two brothers at one time were national referees for basketball. So that's just kind of like an interesting little tidbit. But in the next slide, Collège Notre-Dame du Perpétuel Secours, which is in Cape Haitian, Haiti. This is a school was founded in 1904, not necessarily by Holy Cross, but Holy Cross missionaries took it over in 1944. Haiti, as you know, is one of the poorest countries in the world. It is currently almost in a state of anarchy. They have been, every time they take 2 steps forward, they take 3 steps backwards between the natural disasters of earthquakes and hurricanes, corruption in the government, political strife. There's great violence right now in the country, but nevertheless, our school continues to educate. They educate over 1,000 boys, 90% of whom go to college. It's rated as one of the best in the country. Former presidents and archbishops were graduates of the school, and it continues to offer a sense of hope, oftentimes in a country where people are given very little reason to hope. But again, a remarkable, remarkable feat. And I can go on and on about our schools in Brazil, our school in Peru, even in France. But I say all of this to you because even though Holy Cross was founded in a neighborhood and named after that neighborhood, we were not founded after the Holy Cross. We were founded after the neighborhood of Holy Cross. So we have always had that tradition of reaching out to our neighbors and to be of service to our neighbors and to those who are in our region. And our schools continue that today. And our pandemic really brought that to light. For the pandemic presented new challenges. And I'd just like to share with you some of the responses that Holy Cross schools have done to respond to the needs of their neighbors. In the next slide, St. Brother Andre Secondary School in Kasawa, in Ghana. Very creative, but their chemistry classes made hand sanitizers to be distributed in the local village. And the distribution was not just handing the sanitizers, but they combined that with education of the locals about the virus. So students and faculties went out to the villages to educate people and to give them their hand sanitizers. They delivered food staples. They used the school water producing and purification facility to provide clean, drinkable water for the surrounding villages as well. St. George's College, in the next slide, I had spoken about in Chile. The college had 56 COVID cases in the first month and was immediately quarantined. They suffered greatly from students who had had the virus, as well as faculty members. Their grade school principal almost died from the virus. Their in-person classes were suspended until October of last year. They were suspended again, although now they're meeting in I believe in a limited capacity. But in May, the college housed for 3 months 80 Peruvian migrants who couldn't return to their country, migrant workers in Chile. So they housed them, and as well as they fed them. In India, in the next slide, our brother schools in the Vicariate of India, they provided rice and other food provisions to local families. And they also made donations to the local police commissioners to assist those in need. And then finally, which at my age I would not be able to do, but our St. Joseph province, in the next slide, our St. Joseph province in Bangladesh, they sponsored a work program for students and parents in exchange for food and school fees. But also 30 brothers volunteered for harvesting the rice paddies and then donating their wages to the needy. These are brothers in our school, and lower in the middle there, the lower left is Brother Uchal from Bangladesh, and you can see the whole group of brothers below in the lower right-hand corner. It's very inspiring in many respects. But why is this important for you to know? And go to the next slide, please. Why is this important for you to know? Because like your students, every time you walk into the front door of your school, wherever you are, you need to remember that there are many more teachers and students who are walking through similar doors in Holy Cross schools throughout the world. And you're connected to them. We're connected to one another. You are part of something much greater than your own school. You're part of a tradition, you're part of a network, and you're part of a legacy. As I told you, I have had the privilege to visit all of our jurisdictions with the exception of Peru. And whether I would be in the far corners of India, up in the northeast by Myanmar, or in Tanzania or Haiti, I could walk into a school or to one of our community houses, and I see the family pictures. I see Father Moreau, I see Brother Andre, I see the cross and anchors, and I immediately know that I am home. Brother Thomas addressed this in his keynote, but really what makes a Holy Cross school is the lived out charism. And the charism is a gift of the Holy Spirit. It does not belong to us as Holy Cross priests, brothers, or sisters. We are part of it, but a gift is meant to be shared. Our charism is a gift to the church, and we all make up the church. And that charism is part of you as well. You share in that charism of educating the hearts and minds of students in the vision of our blessed founder. And you do that with passion, with zeal, and with great and with great dedication. And you bring that to the classroom, you bring that to your school in whatever capacity in which you serve that school. And as a Holy Cross brother, and as also the Vicar General of the congregation, for that, I am extremely grateful. And I thank God for you. And please know of my own prayers and blessings as you continue this great work of Holy Cross. So thank you and God bless you.
Thank you so much. I think that I speak for everyone when I say we thoroughly enjoyed your presentation today, Brother Paul. We have a few moments for questions, I believe. Is that all right with you?
That's fine.
All right, so if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to type them in the chat or just to unmute yourself and speak out loud. Brother Paul, where would you go if the pandemic had ended and you could go to any province? Where would you like to go first to go visit?
Well, my term ends in the summer of 2022. I'm looking at taking a sabbatical, and I was thinking of I have some other plans, but I would like to spend more time in India. India is a beautiful country, and it is a subcontinent. like Europe is a combination of all small countries. India is like that concept. They have different states, but like each state is almost a different country because it's so diverse. And I just find it a fascinating culture and a fascinating. The food is interesting and the people, and I see the marvelous work that we're doing there, especially, especially in the area of education. So, but that's just me thinking out loud. I still have another year and a half to go.
That's wonderful. It looks like we have a few messages thanking you and saying that you are missed in Brazil.
Oh, I missed it. I hope to. Please pray for Brazil. Brazil is going through a terrible time with COVID. It just breaks my heart. I had visited Brazil for the just recently, it'll be about a year and a half ago or so. Amazing work. You talk about outreach to the local neighborhoods. The social service works that are connected with our District of Brazil and our schools there. But the COVID and the lack of leadership, national leadership, people are suffering greatly, So we pray for them frequently here at the General Lee. A beautiful country too, just and warm, loving people. Oh, Brother Adolf, I see. Yes. Brother Adolf is from Uganda, and he's studying in San Antonio there at Incarnate Word, doing some communication studies there. Thank you, Brother Adolf.
All right, well, if there are no other questions or comments, that will conclude our breakout session today.
Okay. Well, I hope this was helpful to people, and